Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I always enjoy my conversations with Marc Krasney. He's a regular contributor and has been on The Price of Business now for many years, talking about the law and what it means to you and your business, and really helping to bring some common sense to the process. He's got a very unique law firm, and you can learn more about it at Krasney, Krasney, lawfirm.com. Marc, why don't you start off with a little introduction about your firm before we get into the topic?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. I think the easiest way to explain my firm is we are a law firm that acts like your company's in-house counsel, so that you don't have to pay a lawyer, a salary, benefits, taxes, all that jazz. You farm it out to us for a monthly flat fee. We answer questions, we review contracts, we become that in-house lawyer on a budget, and hopefully that allows your business to stay out of trouble or at least prevent any kind of liabilities or major issues going forward.
Mm-hmm. Very good. What about our topic today?
One thing that's happened in the last several months with my clients is most seem shocked when we talk about dispute resolution. First, what it even is, and then two, that clients, customers in their contracts can actually put into the contract a dispute resolution procedure. So that shocks them when I start talking about that, and I figured if that's the case with my clients, many of your listeners might be in the same boat.
Yeah, I know for years we've always had those, even in the most simple of agreements. It's one of those prior preparation prevents poor performance type of thing, or even more apropos, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Yeah, and one of the things we try to do is avoid the courthouse only because, not that we're afraid of the courthouse, it's just going to take a lot of time. And to get there it's going to take a lot of time, and that process is going to take a lot of money. And so if you can put into your contract some kind of a dispute procedure that would say, hey, there is an issue that comes up, whether it's material or not, we business owners are going to talk about it according to this pre-set out plan that we've agreed to. Both parties have signed off on this procedure, and hopefully that dispute can be resolved in weeks or months and be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, no question about it. Talk a little bit about, where do you begin in this process?
Well, one, we'd like to know what kind of business the client has and what kind of liabilities they foresee. And so what we've been doing often in contracts is putting a procedure in there that not just would waive a jury trial, because I think that is important, at least for contracts. Most of the time it's a legal matter, not so much a factual one. But before you even get into that issue, when there is a fact dispute, we put in a procedure. And so what we've done is we've said before, if there's an issue, then the executives agree to meet at a round table with or without lawyers at a high level to discuss that, so that perhaps it can be resolved. Because oftentimes, the low-level managers or mid-level managers have an issue. It might not rise to the level of someone who actually has ultimate authority. And typically, once that person at the higher level knows, they say, well, I'm okay with that, or let's work this out, or here's this arrangement. And that thing settles just that quickly. If that doesn't work, you escalate it to a next level, which would mean perhaps a non-binding mediation with an agreed-upon mediator and agreed-upon terms with cost split. So those same people, whether mid-level managers or high-level executives, go into a mediation, again, non-binding, trying to get the two parties to work something out. And if it does and settles, and I would say 90% of cases probably get settled there. If that doesn't work, go into some kind of a binding binding arbitration, where you agree on a procedure, you agree on the how, you agree on cost, and whatever that arbitrator decides, it's sort of a mini trial, but typically lasts a day. Typically many, many hours. And then that issue is resolved, done, binding right there. And if anybody has to enforce it, then you go into a courtroom, but it's only to enforce whatever the arbitrator decides.
Yeah, and it's a courtroom that was predetermined in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And advance, what I mean by advance, long before there was even a conflict.
Yeah, you would talk about what law to apply, what courtroom to go into, and all that can be done by contract, at least in the state of Texas.
Talk a little bit about why that's so important, because, I can immediately see, and I'm not an attorney, nor have I never even played one on TV, but I can see immediately where if this kind of issue isn't addressed, your client's in Chicago, but you're in Houston, he decides to sue you in Chicago.
That happens all the time. And then you wonder, do I really have any kind of personal liability, or does that Chicago courtroom have jurisdiction over me? I have to go and hire local counsel. All that costs money to try to get out of a jurisdiction you don't think is viable for this business, you as a party, because it becomes a big headache, and you really haven't resolved anything yet. So it's highly important if the issue is in a business, and typically it is, let's get this thing resolved. Do it my way. You're going to get an answer within weeks or months, as opposed to going the courthouse way, which typically runs 12 to 18 months, assuming a party aggrieved has actually filed in the proper jurisdiction.
Yeah, absolutely. What else should people be putting in consideration in this?
Well, I think at the end of every year, people should be in a business reviewing the contract. And if they don't have a dispute resolution procedure in there, consult a good lawyer to put one in there, only because a business wants to resolve an issue and get back to doing business. They don't want to have to worry about discovery, deposition, spending money on lawyers, because we're the only ones that truly make money. And at the end of the day, all the business wants is a resolution. So locking up those contracts, especially at the end of the year, typically when business slows down, is a must.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. And it sounds like that's one of many end-of-year things that you would suggest people to do, just with a minute or so left. Why don't you kind of give us a couple of others?
Well, not just working on your contracts, but you want to consult with a good lawyer to talk about whether or not the entity you've chosen. Some people are just a sole proprietorship, and hey, maybe that works just fine, maybe not. Consult a good lawyer about that. And I've always talked about in your show, having a very good accountant that hopefully works hand in hand with your lawyer to review the books, to review the checkbook. Make sure that entity you've chosen is the best for you from a tax point of view. Not just protecting liability, but, we want to limit as much as possible the amount of money that leaves our pockets. We want to keep it as much as possible, reinvest it as much as possible, send it on to our employees as possible, things like that. So reviewing with your lawyer, reviewing with your CPA, and just having a general understanding of the business with the management helps tremendously.
Yeah, and as you know, I kind of see, in a way, lawyers like yourself, particularly business lawyers like yourself, you're almost like the canary in the coal mine as far as how the economy is going. What are you seeing as we wrap up 2015? It's been an interesting year, particularly if you're a Houstonian.
Yeah, I think it started out really well, but I think it's on a slow downturn because even though we have diversified in Houston from just being an oil city, there still is some pretty serious effects because you have vendors that don't really know where and the temperature of the city. And so I think it is slowing down, getting a little bit spicy, scary, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It'd be interesting to see how 2016 goes. Everything I'm reading, I'm not seeing any upkick in oil prices anywhere anytime soon.
I think you're right.
So it'll be interesting. All right, Marc Krasney is with the Krasney Law Firm. His website again, KrasneyLawFirm.com. Do want to remind you, starting on January 3rd, 2016, The Price of Business launches a weekly television show on the Biz TV network. The first program being on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you check that out. You can learn more at priceofbusiness.com. You're listening to The Price of Business.